£1,000 a month is not an unreasonable amount of money, which is only £12,000 a year, which is not a lot of money in real terms. And when people say that, oh, it's more than adequate, it's not very adequate, especially when you live in London. You know, I mean, what things are like.
Do you think there might be a case, though, for having different pensions depending on your circumstances?
Yeah, why not? I mean, like I was saying, at the moment I'm working, I'm 63, I work for a hotel group, I work in kitchens, my current salary is 25,000 in a year, I take home about 1,700 a month. Now, if the pensions was to match my salary when I retire, that would be great, because even in the greater scheme of things, even £1,700 a month after tax, it's not a lot still, but I manage with what I have, but I'm on my own. I don't throw my money away. I mean, I'd love to say that's for a pension, but that depends on your contribution base, you know, whether it's 35 years or 44 years. So I remember there was an example from Martin Lewis said, oh, you could top up your pensions if you've got like a few years, or you can top up 5 or 6 years of pension. But that deadline passed back in end of July this year, so I don't know how, if people would get more help, or whether the government would realise that a lot of people that haven't caught up with their pensions, and whether they will actually. I just feel like the both parties, they need some vision, they need to think out of the box, because we're not all in the same box.
Well, I agree, and I do think we need perhaps a different approach, because the one problem with all of this, and I understand people say, look, I've paid in for years and I want to take the money out again, but the problem we've got is that at the time people were paying in, the payments were based on you living for another 15 or 20 years, and now people are living another 30 years and longer, and that's a lot more money.
Now, I sometimes wonder whether the governments, whether it's the previous government or the current government, or when it's the beginning, whether they actually use this sort of language to justify their actions. But I kind of feel like it depends, like saying, like, you know, when you're, as a quick example, if when you're born, you don't know when you're going to get born, or how healthy you're going to be, how long your life's going to be. That depends on what your parents like. You know, 75% of your DNA comes from your parents, so the other 25%, if you want to ruin your lifestyle, that's the other 25% is down to you. What you want to do with it. But if you look after yourself, because at the end of the day, you don't know when you're going to leave this earth. Who knows? Only God or the mysterious force in the universe knows when that's going to happen. You know, no one knows how long you're going to live. No one knows that.
This is true, and that is all part of the pensions gamble.
The gamble, yes.
Where some people end up with 40 years worth of pension, and other people never see their pension at all. David, thank you very much. 0345 6060 973. It's LBC 147.
This is LBC. When buying a car, you want the reassurance of a real person like me.
But also the ease of using me to go online.
You want a store to try before you buy.
But searching thousands of cars online is so simple.
Having an expert when you have questions is great.
But so is shopping and buying on the sofa.
That's why your local Evans Hampshire have trusted advisors to talk to.
And an easy-to-use website.
So you can use both of us. Evans Hampshire, where buying your car
revolves around you.
I'm Zoe. I own Muck Brass, which is an upcycling homewares business, and this is why I switched to Shopify. One of my biggest challenges was the lack of support when I really needed it, and it would always slow down the momentum of my business. I felt like I didn't even know who my customers were. Thanks to Shopify analytics tools, I feel more confident with the products I'm creating, and the sales are actually reflecting that. Start your new journey today on Shopify.
Get $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/setup23.
This September, travel in Greater Manchester is changing as we welcome the B Network, the first step towards an integrated transport system. And there's even more to say yellow to, including our new B Network app, launching 18th of September. You'll be able to buy cheaper tickets, see live tram and bus times, and even find your nearest stops. Find out about all the changes and join the travel revolution at tfgm.com/BNetwork.
Because you never know what little pickles will get themselves into. For pet insurance policies as unique as they are, visit petsinapickle.co.uk. This is LBC, leading Britain's conversation with Clive Bull.
LBC, good morning. I'm Clive Bull with you till 4 o'clock. Talk about pensions at the moment. If you've got a comment on the way the system is set up at the moment, is it fair? Is it adequate? Is it too adequate? It's somewhat surprising. Well, a few people have been arguing this morning. 0345 6060 973. Other things we will be getting onto as well. Several people asking, what is the triple lock? Which I did mention this earlier, but just to explain it again then. The triple lock is a guarantee since 2010 that the state pension rises each year either in line with inflation or in line with average earnings or by 2.5%, whichever of those three is higher. So you've got a sort of three-way guarantee that the pension will keep pace with everything that's going up. And if wages and inflation are, as they were at one stage, very, very low, it would still go up by 2.5%. So it is relatively quite a good deal, although when you look at our pension in comparison to other countries, it doesn't always look so good. Several people as well pointing out the last caller actually needs to be updated. Julie from Bromley saying HMRC extended the deadline for the gap year payment in your pensions to April 25. So if you've missed a year and you need to make up for that, you can sort of pay for those years that you missed. And you've now had that extended. Please tell your caller, this one says as well, that the mortgage top-up scheme that Martin Lewis was publicising, I think pension top-up scheme, you mean, and the deadline has been extended till next year. Geraldine in Swindon says, morning Clive, I'm 71, I'm on a state pension, and you're absolutely correct. The bills alone cost more than I get before I've even bought food. To much dismay from my family, I've had to set up an OnlyFans, really, but it's the only way I can see out of not going hungry. Tommy says, state pension should be the same as minimum wage, says Tommy. Okay, that's an argument. Simon from Sussex says, remember there are two pensions levels. Those like me, retired before 2012, you get a lower pension than those who retired from about 2016. I get about £160 a week. I'm sure your bods can look it up. It's grossly unfair to a huge group of older people. Well, yes, somebody mentioned this earlier on. I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised that everybody didn't just go on to the new rate. You introduce a new rate, but then anyone who's on the old rate, you're left on the old rate. That doesn't seem really fair, does it? Ken Dodd, says Stuart, think Willy Wonka with a long feather, which he called his tickling stick. Oh yeah, I forgot about the tickling stick. He had a tickling stick. Still nothing, really? Not really, no. It wasn't like a walking stick. It was more like a feather duster, you know, that you get cobwebs with or something, and he would sort of, I don't know, wave it around. Thinking about it, a bit old, really. How can other European countries pay higher pensions than us? Well, they do manage it, some of them. The maximum state pension in Spain is about €2,400. And not everybody gets that. The average is less than that, but the maximum is considerably more than our maximum. Clive, I knew someone who looked exactly like Ken Dodd, the poor woman. This one says, final work salary pensions seem to be the dream. State pension is a supplement to just exist at best. You could continue to pay into your pension, but as things stand, unless you end up with significant investments and savings, this is just another impending disaster waiting to happen. Absolutely. And a couple more. Alexandra, Crystal Palace, morning, says, thank you so much for sprinkling some of the magic to hail the weekend. Just wanted to say, weekend Dodd, let us not forget those teeth. Oh yeah, he did have teeth, didn't he? Yeah. Mouthful of teeth, I think you'd probably say. Ken Dodd, and to any Gen Z Beatles fans, he is a divisive figure who apparently beat She Loves You to best-selling single of the 1960s with his song Tears. Nice. He was a singer, wasn't he? I don't particularly remember that, but I don't think he had a great voice, really. Probably what you call a crooner. Ed in Cornwall says, morning Clive, here's a Ken Dodds joke. I haven't spoken to my mother-in-law for 18 months. I don't like to interrupt her. Yeah, very old school kind of mother-in-law type jokes. Yeah, I think probably wouldn't go down so well these days. And goodness me, this one says, I have a friend who apparently thinks she can retire at 55 despite not having a private pension. Can you explain that, please? Well, I absolutely can't. Paul's in Greenford. Morning, Paul.
Morning, Clyde. Yeah, I won't have no pensions because I was a temporary worker from 94 to 2007. So since then I've been on ESA and employment support allowance, and I get 520 a week. I'm 48.
Right. Well, you should still get. There is always going to be a bare basic pension, even if you've never paid anything. I would have thought.
Oh right, that's good. I'll be able to get a state pension. So I think they should keep the state pension as it is because of the ageing population. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it works actually. If you've literally never paid anything in,
yeah.
I'm not sure. But I think even with freelance work, you still have to pay national insurance.
Yeah.
It would be maybe worth checking just in case.
Just for manifesto purposes.
Oh yes, yeah.
What did Keir Starmer do about that reform of the House of Lords? Because I definitely listened to them to clandestine if they were going to reform the House of Lords. I wouldn't like that one bit. That would be my solace record, not Ken Dodd.
So yes, so well, I think he's backtracked a bit on House of Lords reform, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I think he's saying they'll investigate it. Nothing will happen in the first term, I don't think. But
it's been there for so long, though, you know.
What, the House of Lords?
Yeah.
So what do you think? We shouldn't touch it?
Shouldn't touch it. It's part of the Constitution, surely. You know, the political textbooks. I've got it in my garage. I bought the politics textbooks from the 90s.
It is part of history, no doubt about that. But on the other hand, yeah, I mean,
and
it is dated.
Appointed, didn't they? They get appointed and done Dory Lawrence.
Some people, yes, absolutely. And that's part of the problem. I mean, I think there's still some hereditary ones as well, but I think it has a bit of a what we call a democratic deficit, doesn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah.
And it's nobody really voted. Paul, thank you very much. Let's squeeze in Colin before the news. Hi, Colin.
Hi there, Clive. Nice to speak to you.
And you, what do you like to say?
I'd like to say that I worked for 52 years and I wasn't sat in the office behind the desk, and I wasn't down in London doing the stock exchange or all like that, or, the nails done. I was actually working in engineering, driving and the rest of it. Then they kept messaging me, did the company, to you need to invest in a private pension.
Yeah.
So I did. So I get £200 a week state pension.
Mm-hmm.
That's after 52 years. And then I get £52 from my private pension. But my private pension is taxed.
Yes, it's all taxed.
Yeah. And I just think, well, what would the point of having a private pension? And that could prove one
Well, I mean, their argument is, Yeah.
pension credit. And I'll just mention one more.
So you wish you hadn't bothered with a private pension?
Yeah, because I didn't claim pension credit or whatever. I just want to mention one more thing, Clive.
Yeah.
My wife, who passed away 6 years ago, had worked for 40 years. I was the working pensions place. I said, am I entitled to any of their credits? And they said, Mr. Stack, we don't have to charge anyone's name with their contributions. So I said, what's happened to my 40 years contributions? It's gone to somebody else.
Yeah. I'm afraid that's why I said earlier on that it's a gamble, and that's exactly what it is with pensions, really. But it's one you don't have any choice in. You've got to pay in, and if you win the gamble, you live a long life into retirement, and you get a lengthy pension. And if you don't, then you don't. And unfortunately, that seems to be the way of it. It's like an insurance scheme, really. National insurance, as it were. Colin, thank you very much indeed. Coming up after the news, some other things to talk about, in particular food waste. What can we do about it? Have you come across wasted food? The figures are absolutely shocking for the amount of food that we waste. Plus vet bills and Horizon, all coming up after the news.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 2 o'clock, police have refused to rule out whether Daniel Cleef has left the UK or if he had outside help to escape jail as the search for the fugitive enters its third day. The former soldier went missing from HMP Wandsworth on Wednesday, prompting extra security checks at major transport hubs. David Shipley served half his fraud sentence in Wandsworth. He says he can't understand why Cleef was allowed to work in the prison kitchen in the first place.
The kitchen staff will receive food deliveries into the prison every day, be in contact with those lorries and those delivery drivers, and that means for someone who does want to escape, that sort of job in the kitchen provides a really good opportunity to do so.
Climate change will be top of the agenda at the G20, which opens in India later. The summit comes after a monsoon season which ravaged the country with flash floods and landslides. Himachal Pradesh is the northwest of the country, has been one of the worst hit areas. Environmentalist Tikender Singh Panwar says the region is in crisis.
I think we ought to have a completely different paradigm of development models in the Himalayas. The governments have to take great responsibility because it's what I call the planned destruction of the Himalayas.
Today marks the first anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's death at the age of 96. It was the end of a 70-year era and saw the succession of Britain's first king in 7 decades. Elizabeth Buchanan was the king's private secretary for 10 years until 2009. She says while the country was going through political turmoil, the institution of the monarchy provided stability.
From a constitutional point of view, there was not even a blip. And the moment that the king stepped out of the car on that Friday morning, when he arrived back here at Buckingham Palace, you knew we were in the safest possible hands.
And the UK could have a record 6 days of 30 degrees heat for the first time in September. The Met Office says yesterday was provisionally the hottest day, with 32.6 recorded in Surrey. The previous highest temperature for the year was set in June at 32.2. LBC weather, plenty of sunshine for most of the UK, a few showers in the southwest though, highs of 33. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Serena Family.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Clive Ball.
LBC, good morning. I'm Clive Ball with you between now and 4. Record temperatures for September, 6 days worth of bloody hot weather in most of the country. And I just think across or that you think we should be doing something about. I'm mentioning this because millions of tonnes, and I mean millions of tonnes, of perfectly good to eat food is being dumped in the landfill. And campaigners are calling on the government to intervene to make sure that excess food is diverted to people who actually need it. There are plenty of those at the moment. Is that something you would support? Should more be done to avoid food waste? And I'll tell you what I mean by food waste in a moment. Are you aware, though, this might be one where you can shed some light on the situation. I've seen it in a couple of ways. I haven't seen it on the agricultural scale, which is particularly shocking. So, a staggering, this by the way is from a London Evening Standard investigation. They've been looking into this. A staggering 2.9 million tonnes of